Yo, what's up, guys? C-Jax back with another Raw recap, and this episode was garbage. Now, obviously, there were a couple good things in this episode. I will say that, okay? There were a couple things that I liked, but for the most part, this was boring. It was nonsensical, and overall, the Raw before the PLE Bad Blood was bad. Now, let's get into the first thing that happened. Jey Uso basically came out, and this was a pretty cool entrance. He came out with his son, and he was with a bunch of fans, in the arena, and that was pretty dope. He comes down the stage. He's basically, or down the stairs, I should say. He's doing all the yeet stuff. Crowd's going insane. This crowd was garbage otherwise throughout most of this night, but they were good for this entrance. And then Jey Uso makes his way to the ring. He actually did a recoloring of the title, so he did a redesign of it. It actually looks pretty decent in my opinion. It's pretty cool. He added some flavor to it, right? But then we get on the mic, and Jey Uso cuts a promo that I would actually deem as kind of weird. Like, there was a bunch of weird pauses and awkward stops, and he's just saying yeet randomly throughout the times he's talking. I don't know if he was out of breath from all that yeeting and jumping around he was doing in his entrance, or if it was just he was overwhelmed with emotion by the moment of him actually winning a title and, standing in front of a crowd all waiting for him, and all that stuff. I mean, he hasn't done that ever in his career, so I can't expect him to just be a pro at it, right? But it's like, you've cut good promos before. You should know how this works. But I don't know. Maybe he was overwhelmed for other reasons, but either way, he basically just says, he did it for his mom. He's happy for that. He said that Roman Reigns and the Bloodline and his brother tried to hold him down, but he finally brought through. The fans stuck with him, and, everyone viewed him as a tag team wrestler and just a twin, and then he actually broke out of that mold. And this was actually a decent thing, but like I said, with all those awkward pauses and stops, it was just a very patchy promo. Then you get to this, Braun Breaker comes out, and he basically is talking about, hey, Jey, you are the better man. And he surprisingly turns face. Yes, Braun Breaker, after like 5 months on the main roster, is actually turning face. So that's that. Braun's a good guy now, man. And we're going to get back to him being a good guy because he did a little something that I thought was very, very cool later on in the night. And that I'm really excited for going forward. But yeah, he basically comes out, shakes Jey's hand and says, you were the better man. You earned that title. And now it's time to move on, man. And Braun is now a good guy. So I think that's interesting. It would have been nice to see him build out, go back and fight Jey again for the title. But if they're going down this road where he's going to eventually challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight title, it seems, I think this is interesting. The only thing that sucks, though, is that Ilya Dragunov was announced that he tore his ACL, and he's going to be out for like 6 to 9 months, which is pretty much a year worth of wrestling time. I mean, this is just a terrible situation, man. I mean, this is pretty awful. This dude never really got a chance to do anything. I'm not a big Ilya Dragunov fan at all, but like, he's decent in the ring. He's pretty good in the ring. I'll say that much, right? And, he just came to the roster like, 5 months ago? And for him to already get injured for a year and take that off his career is going to be tough, man. He could have easily helped the mid-card out, or even fought Gunther. I know I've heard they've had some classic matches back with, NXT and other stuff, so that's that. But anyways, then we get Xavier Woods versus Rey Mysterio, and in this match, Xavier rips off Rey Mysterio's mask, and that's pretty much the story of this match. There was multiple botches throughout, I'll be honest, and it was a pretty patchy match as well. However, the real story of this is that Rey Mysterio basically is a monster in the ring still, and this dude's over the age of 50, I'm pretty sure, and he's still legendary in the ring. He's doing great moves, he's putting on really good matches, and he's just doing moonsaults, he's doing splashes, he's doing sentons. I mean, this guy's just a unit, man. He's consistent, he's got longevity. Rey Mysterio is already a legend, but everything he does now, like from now until the end of his career, is just tacking on. It's like icing on the cake to his amazing career. This guy's insane in the ring. Then after this, we get it announced that Xavier Woods is going to be fighting Jey Uso for the Intercontinental title. Now, I don't know why this is happening. For Jey's first defense, I would wish it would be someone a lot more dominant than, Xavier Woods, or better than Xavier Woods in the ring or storyline-wise, but they're going to go with Xavier Woods. I'm not excited for this whatsoever, but yeah, we're doing it. Then we had the Pure Jobber Collective basically came out, and I don't even remember what happened here, I'll be honest. They fought Lyra Valkyria. Lyra Valkyria has Jobber written all over her, okay? She's obviously, trying to do a decent job of, like, getting command of the crowd, but you can't get command of the crowd when you don't prove anything about your ability to tell stories or cut promos or even wrestle great matches on the main roster. She hasn't had any great matches. She's just had, like, a couple decent matches, if that. And so when you haven't proven yourself to be, like, a proven proven storyteller, a great wrestler in the division, you're not going to have command of the crowd. She does this thing where she comes out with these Valkyrie wings. She's like, woo, woo, woo. Like, no one's doing that, bro. We saw with the reaction. Nobody cares about that, man. And the Pure Fusion Collective just continues to be jobbers. Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark are all jobbers. It's that simple. They don't tell good stories. Nobody cares in the crowd. Nobody cares watching at home, and their matches are full of botches. Like we saw that, at least literally saw Zoe Stark and Lyra Valkyria botch multiple dangerous moves at Money in the Bank. They'll be fired within a year or two if Triple H knows what he's doing, but we'll see about that. Then we had Punk and Drew basically come out. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Caden and Katana Chance returned. I didn't even remember because nobody cares. They come back. Katana Chance, or Caden Carter, whatever one is a little short, the white girl that's like really short, she is really, really small, dude. Like, she's standing next to like people like Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, and they make her look like she's a midget. She then went backstage and had this segment where she cut a bad promo with a mask on, like she was masked LeBron when he was on the Heat or something like that. And pretty much, she comes out there and she's like, yeah, we're gonna take back our women's tag team titles. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not beating Bianca Belair. You're not beating Jade Cargill. You're not beating Damage Control. And honestly, you're not going to beat the Unholy Union, which next to the Unholy Union, they look like little midgets and elves compared to the Unholy Union in that specific shot looking like Thor and like Hulk-sized people. It was very weird. It may have just been the platforming, but they look so small, man. I mean, I don't know, bro. They might be 5 feet. Who knows, man? They might be shorter than Roxanne Perez. But anyways, then we get to Punk and Drew. They basically came out and cut promos, and this was actually a decent segment. I'll say that, all right? Drew McIntyre did a decent job. He's basically like, after this, you're going to be unrecognizable. Your wife's going to have to be feeding you through a tube. Like, you're going to get destroyed. You know, all these things. You're a coward, all this other stuff, right? And then Punk basically calls him a piece of garbage and said, I've turned into the thing that I've hated and all this other stuff. Punk's doing a decent job of trying to storytell with what they have left because they've already kind of exhausted all of the storytelling and promo material for this feud. So he's not really saying much anything of new, but I mean, I don't know. It's a collection of the past things that they've said, and it was decent promos overall as a collection of things that have already been done and said. I mean, what else can you really do at this point? It's been a repetitive and boring feud, in my opinion, for like a month or two at this point. So, I mean, I don't know. They're just grounding for scraps. Drew McIntyre, though, this is the thing that bothers me about this promo and this whole entire feud. Drew McIntyre is most likely going to lose this match to CM Punk. And when you really think about it, why is that happening? Drew McIntyre is way more superior in the ring than CM Punk, especially at CM Punk's age now. It's not close. Drew McIntyre is good on the mic. He's the one who was there the last 6-7 years or whatever, grinding for this company, improving his craft and fighting to get to the top. Just to get one real world championship reign in the last 4 years, bro? What? Meanwhile, this guy CM Punk, who takes a break for 10 years, bashes the company while he's gone, gets to come back and win his first meaningful feud since coming back to the WWE, bro. Like, what is the logic behind this, man? Something about that just bothers me. Like, I understand, obviously it's wrestling, like it's not real, but there is a real element to that. A guy who's been fighting for your company for 7 years should not be losing to a dude who bashed your company for a decade and then showed back up for a check because he got fired from AEW, and then that's it. Like, if AEW was wearing well and got great viewership and was consistent with the way they treated Punk or whatever happened with that, he would have stayed in AEW and gotten that fat check. But because it didn't work out, he just came back to WWE. That's the only reason he's back. And because of the management in WWE is quote-unquote better than it was a decade ago. You know? It's like, how does that dude get a chance to win the biggest feud of his career, so like, you know, in a long time? And then Drew McIntyre just doesn't get any. He didn't even get the chance to win the Intercontinental title. He doesn't get to win the World title. He can't win the WWE title. He can't win a feud versus an old, washed-up CM Punk. Like, what? Like this doesn't make any sense, man. They make Drew McIntyre, who's worked hard for their company, now just lose, and it's just annoying in my opinion, man. It's frustrating, but we'll get into that in the predictions video and the eventual review for Bad Blood this weekend, right? Then after this, we get another terrible and annoying and boring piece of trash segment/match for the entirety of it, pretty much. Judgment Day fights the LWO. Nobody cares. I don't even remember who won this match. I think the Judgment Day did. I'm assuming. I don't even remember. Then after this, Finn Balor does what he does best. He cuts a bad promo. Damien, it was you, Damien. You did this. You did this. The Judgment Day didn't need you. The Judgment Day. The Judgment Day. The Judgment Day. Why don't you shut up and give us a day where you cut a good promo? You know what I'm saying? It was annoying. Finn Balor doesn't know how to cut promos, and it's getting outrageous at this point. And when he was doing moves on Damien at the end of this, when they attacked him, no one was reacting to his moves. They weren't booing, they weren't cheering, they just didn't care. Because this feud between Finn and Damien should not be on a PLE. It just shouldn't. It's not good enough. What have they done from Finn Balor's good heel turn, or good turn on Damien at SummerSlam, which I thought was well done? What have they done from then to now to make this really feel like a Bad Blood, intense, full-blown rivalry? What have they done? What have they done to make this feel special or feel intense or feel great? Like this should be a big time match, a big time feud built up over months. They haven't done anything to improve this. They barely had any promos together. The promos they've done have been garbage. Damian has barely said anything, and he's either just attacked them or gotten attacked himself. So that's just dumb. Then you also have Rhea Ripley. She comes out and interrupts Liv Morgan's awful promo after this, where she basically says the same stuff she always says. Rhea, I took your title and I took your man and I'm gonna do this and do that. Like, no, you're not. Because when Rhea Ripley shows up and cuts her own mid-promo basically saying that Liv Morgan's not as good as her, which is obviously true, but we already know that. And then after that, Liv Morgan basically goes up to Rhea as Rhea's attacking Dominic Mysterio, man. We have to have a dialogue about this guy. This guy is an absolute nutter cuck. He's a beta, and that's exactly how he's booked. He's booked like a jobber, and that's exactly what he is at this point. Everyone's saying, oh, well, he can cut promos, he can catch heat as a heel, he's this, he's that. No, he's not. No, he's not. If he'd ever turned on Rey Mysterio, this dude would be fired like a year ago. He's not that good in the ring. He doesn't, name me a great promo that Dominic has cut. Please, somebody explain that to me. Please show me a great promo that Dominic has cut where you can hear what he's saying. It's competent and it actually matters. When has he cut a great promo? It's been 2 or 3 years since he's been in the 3 or 4 years at this point. I don't even know. And he hasn't done one good promo. Not one. So stop overrating this dude. He's booked like a jobber. Rhea Ripley is booked as more dominant than him, despite the fact that realistically, he should be able to fight back, but he can't do anything. He just gets thrown into cages and thrown around. He can't even fight back against Dragon Lee. This dude's a jobber, bro. So stop it. And then Liv Morgan, she tries to interrupt and fight back against Rhea. And what does she do? Usually, like she always does, she just runs away. That's it. She just ran away. She runs away from Rhea Ripley, and that's pretty much that. And I'm like, what is the point of this, man? What is the point of this? You have Dominic getting thrown into a shark cage, but Liv Morgan, who's now in love with Dom and all this other stuff, she'll do anything for Dom, and she's not even going to try and fight back. She waits until Dominic's getting shoved in a cage to finally try and attack Rhea, and even then it still doesn't work. Liv Morgan is a world heavyweight champion, and she's being booked like a wimp and a jobber. She just runs away from every single competition or challenge unless Rhea's back is turned, unless she's hurt. It is dumb, man, and it is annoying. You can't book your champions like this, dude. It just gets boring after a while. I don't care if Raquel Rodriguez comes back and costs Rhea the title this week at Bad Blood, because it doesn't matter. Raquel Rodriguez is also a jobber. Rhea Ripley beat the crap out of her last year, and Raquel Rodriguez will never win a championship in WWE unless it's like a woman's tag belt. Like, what is the point of that? These people are all jobbers, man. So I don't care what happens with this feud anymore. I really don't. I don't care if they drag it out until WrestleMania because it's just going to continue to be boring anyways. So nobody cares. And everyone's saying long-form storytelling. What does this help? Damian gets beat up for the 5th time. Wow, that makes this feud so much more interesting and engaging, even though most audience would agree that this feud is not engaging or interesting enough to have Finn Balor versus Damian on a PLE with no stipulation. There's no stipulation on this match, and there's barely no stipulation on the Rhea vs. Liv match. But these are some big, bad blood, intense feuds that we're all hyped for. Yeah, bro. No, it's not. So let's just move on from this garbage. Then you get to Gunther, who basically cuts a pretty decent promo saying it was embarrassing to lose to Sammy at WrestleMania, and he's trying to wipe it off his record, and Gunther's the golden goose of his family, and, he's the true champ in charge, the leader in charge, and, he's tired of having to think about the fact that he lost to Sammy and has to see his face every week. So basically, Sammy says, you know what, your dad was right in being disappointed in you because you're not only a loser, but you're a coward. And that pushes Gunther over the edge, and Gunther clotheslines Sami Zayn and hits a nasty powerbomb on him that was actually pretty decent. And then after that, pretty much what happens is that Gunther stands over Sami Zayn and confirms, yes, you will get your world title match next week on Raw. So next week, we're getting Sami Zayn versus Gunther for the world title. We know Sami is not winning this match, and we know he's most likely going to end up inside of the Bloodline again for the Bloodline 2.0 Civil War, whatever you want to call it, war. So that's pretty much that. But Gunther and Sami did a decent job in this promo. It was actually kind of interesting, but at the same time, this is what I mean with the long-form storytelling. Why are we waiting 6 or 5 weeks to announce this match when we knew it was just going to happen on an episode of Raw anyway and that Gunther was going to win in 15 minutes? Why are we waiting for this? What did the long-form storytelling... I want someone to tell me, all the advocates of Triple H, I want you to tell me why we needed to wait 6 weeks for Gunther to officially give him a match on Raw where we know Gunther's going to win in 15 minutes. Can someone please explain that? What are the 6 weeks of the last 6 weeks of nothing nonsense where Gunther just says you're not getting a match, you're not getting a match, you're not getting a match? Him doing that for 6 weeks, what did that change about this feud? Nothing. It's still boring, and we still know what the end result is, and nothing about it has gotten any more interesting. So this is just dumb. Again, another reason why long-form storytelling and Triple H meat riding is just absurd in today's day and age. Anyways, After this, we get to see The Miz, or R-Truth returns backstage with Bronson Reed and The Miz. And then The Miz ends up turning heel, and he boots R-Truth in the face, which he completely missed the boot and botched it, but it's whatever. That was pretty much that. He turns on R-Truth, and this makes no sense. Why is The Miz turning on R-Truth, someone who's been friends with for years now at this point? Nearly 13 years since they teamed up for the first time in 2011 versus The Rock and Cena. This dude is now turning on R-Truth because Karrion Kross says two things to him over the last month. He says 2 segments with him, and all of a sudden The Miz is convinced that Karrion Kross is right. Karrion Kross has won and done nothing in WWE. He hasn't won any titles, he hasn't done any important matches, and he hasn't won any important matches. But he's going to listen to Karrion Kross, even though The Miz has won multiple world titles. He's won the Intercontinental title 8 times, which means he's a bona fide mid-carder, you know what I'm saying? And he's done all this stuff over WWE in the last decade or two, and The Miz is just going to disappear and go heel because Karrion Kross voiced something in his ear 2 times. A jobber tells The Miz what to do now. That's the logic. It's kind of like how Cody Rhodes sits back and lets Kevin Owens just tell him that he's going to wrestle or not. Kevin Owens is like, you know what, with all due respect, Cody, you're not wrestling tonight. You have your partner. You stay okay, bro. Who are you talking to? You're a jobber. Kevin Owens hasn't won a world title in 8 years, and he's telling the WWE champion what he's going to do tonight. What? Imagine John Cena or Roman Reigns or anyone sitting back and being told by some mid-carder / jobber that they're not going to wrestle tonight. Who are you talking to? You're Kevin Owens. I'm Roman Reigns. You know what I'm saying? You're Kevin Owens, I'm John Cena. Or you're Kevin Owens, I'm Cody Rhodes. I'm the WWE champion. Who are you talking to? You haven't won anything since I was in 5th grade. You get what I'm saying? This is stupid. So that's pretty much that. And then after this, you have Braun Breaker. This is probably one of the better parts of the night. Braun Breaker eyes up Gunther backstage and basically says, you're going to find out why I'm a dog soon. Because Gunther's talking a little bit of trash to him backstage. And this is where things get interesting, man. I really want to see Braun Breaker versus Gunther. Number one, it would actually be a pretty good match in my opinion. But on top of that, it would be a good feud. It would be a good feud for both of them that I think would elevate both of them. Because quite frankly, Gunther has been doing an okay job as world champion in my opinion. He doesn't have the draw or charisma to really be a memorable world heavyweight champion at the end of the day. The only way he could be memorable is if they force his reign to be a year or 2 long. But other than that, Braun Breaker is next up, dude. The in-ring athleticism, he's probably the most athletic guy in the company outside of Logan Paul and maybe 1 or 2 other people. But he is a freak athlete. He's great in the ring. He's great at selling. He's versatile. He cuts better promos than Gunther, in my opinion, more intense promos. And he has a better gimmick and more charisma. So obviously, Braun Breaker long-term is going to be a way bigger star than Gunther will ever be, most likely. However, I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on Braun winning the world title, but if you think about it, if he just lost to Jay last week on Raw, obviously, I'm assuming they're doing that to take the title off him so he can load up and win an even bigger title. So I do expect Braun Breaker to actually be the person who takes the belt from Gunther. And then I think Braun Breaker will end up losing to either John Cena or maybe Orton or Punk or Rollins down the line to lose that World Heavyweight Championship. But either way, I think Gunther should lose to Braun Breaker. Whether it happens at Survivor Series or it happens at Royal Rumble or whatever, it needs to happen. Braun Breaker, and this is the honest truth, he is a top 3 talent in the company, bro. Straight up. You have Roman Reigns, you have Seth Rollins, and you have Drew McIntyre's up there, LA Knight's up there, obviously, and then Braun Breaker is at least top 5. Who else is more talented than him outside of those 4 people? And those 4 people, you can honestly argue with 2 or 3 of them. Outside, the only ones that you can't argue with, obviously Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are better than Braun Breaker. Because at the end of the day, it's Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. These dudes have a great lineage. They're going to go down as Hall of Famers, as legends. And Roman Reigns specifically is one of the greatest to ever do it. However, the other ones, Drew McIntyre, who else? LA Knight? LA Knight's 40 years old. He's going to be phased out in 3 years. Braun Breaker's in 3 years, Braun Breaker might be the WWE champion. You get what I'm saying? So Braun Breaker's up next, and I think this is a good feud to introduce him, and even if he doesn't win, at least it'll put him even more on the map by having him in a high-profile feud, I guess, for the World Championship. So this should be cool, and I'm actually excited for this. A face Braun Breaker versus a heel Gunther. This should be interesting, and this could be good if it's done well and if it's written well and booked well by Hunter. Then we had the main event where we had the return of Seth freaking Rollins, and he came back to no theme song, which we'll get to in a second. This main event between Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman in the last Monster Standing match was awesome. You had the epic spot where Bronson Reed put Braun Strowman through a table outside the ring. That was absolutely epic. You had the chair spot where he got thrown out of the ring onto a chair. Bronson Reed did. The ring broke also after that awesome suplex. And then you had Braun Strowman who jumped off of the top rope, the ring post, and then landed on 15 different people, and Adam Pearce got out of the way. way. I thought for a second Bronson Reed was going to like beat up Adam Pearce. That would have been pretty interesting, but they didn't do it. But then, you had basically Braun Strowman jumping off the top on the 20 dudes. It was insane, bro. It just was. Like, from top to bottom, this was an awesome main event. And another thing as well that people need to realize about this feud, listen to this. Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman just put on, and this isn't even a hot take. This is one of the best feuds we've gotten on Raw/SmackDown all year. It was awesome. Built up to on Raw, great matches, consistently epic moments each night they were on the show together, and then you culminated with an awesome last man standing match that had great spots. It was only about like 20 minutes with the commercials, probably like 12 minutes total, at least of what we saw. I mean, obviously there's commercials and stuff, but, just in terms of what we saw is like a 15-minute match max. It was epic. It was awesome. And you top it all off with the dude who kind of started this Bronson Reed arc with Seth Rollins coming back, which is awesome. This is only going to make Raw better. You really do feel Seth Rollins' absence when you're looking at jobbers like Damian Priest and Finn Balor and, all these other bums like Liv Morgan coming out and basically doing nothing. The pure jobber collective comes out, does nothing. American Made, all this other nonsensical stuff, right? But by the way, American Made and Kofi Kingston, they had a match. Nobody really cares about that. Kofi lost and got kind of cost by Xavier. Same repeating stuff. But yeah, Seth Rollins is back. He curb stomps Bronson Reed onto the steel steps, and Braun Strowman gets up and ends up winning the last monster standing match in an epic way to end Raw. But again, why did Seth Rollins not return with his entrance music? This is what happens when you fill up the night with random bum behind segments from Katana Chance and Caden Carter and like the Miz turning heel on R-Truth versus AOP, which no one cares about. You get what I'm saying? When you waste time with stuff like that, you lose the extra 10 to 15 minutes you could have put into this match to maybe give it an extra spot or two and give Rollins a full-on entrance with the music and the crowd interacting, and then having him do something epic like maybe 5 to 6 curb stomps on Bronson Reed, like Bronson Reed hit 6 tsunamis on Seth Rollins. You see what I'm saying? They could have made this a lot better and a lot more interesting, at least when it comes to the entrance of Seth. But the match itself was epic. It was awesome. It was the best part of the night. It was one of the better matches. It's actually back-to-back weeks now of Raw having awesome main events. So I'll give Raw the respect it deserves in that aspect. But when you look at every other thing that happened tonight, you have nonsensical promos, you have boring segments, you have bad promos and bad segments like the stuff that happened with the Judgment Day, and you have mediocre and pointless matches like the Miz match with AOP. You also had the stuff with, Lyra versus Zoe Stark was also pointless. Xavier Woods versus Rey Mysterio was kind of pointless as well. Kofi versus the American Made was kind of pointless. I mean, that match was literally done for absolutely nothing. And then that was pretty much that. So, yeah, man. Overall, I would say that this Raw episode was honestly below mid. I don't think it's garbage, but it was bad in my opinion, right? There's levels to this. You can be like garbage, you can be the worst ever, you can be bad, you can be mid, you can be good, you can be great, and then you can be perfect. You get what I'm saying? So we're just gonna have to deal with it as it is. It was a below mid episode. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. I guess I'll be nice about it, but this was pretty bad, man. I'll be honest. It had a couple good things I liked, but I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode in the comment section below. And as always, I hope you guys have a phenomenal day. Peace out.